I'm Seth Michael May.
I'm Sean Behrens.
I'm Abram Kaplan.
And I'm Judy Mayer.
And you're listening to Obscuria Filmcast. Greetings and welcome to Obscuria Filmcast. I'm Abram, and we will be joined momentarily by Seth, Judy, and Sean. Today we will be discussing Judy's selection, Antichrist, 2009, directed by Lars von Trier. A grieving couple retreat to their cabin in the woods, hoping to repair their broken hearts and troubled marriage. But nature takes its course and things go from bad to worse. This is one of the most disturbing and gruesome films that I've ever seen, not least because of the juxtaposition of incredibly stunning cinematography to its gut-wrenching subject matter. If you enjoy our podcast, please subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Leave a like and comment on one of our YouTube streams and share a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate all of your support and welcome your engagement on our weekly YouTube live streams. If you'd like to suggest a film for future episodes and have the opportunity to participate in our live stream, please email us at obscuriafilmpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you. And now, here is Judy's selection, Antichrist. All right, guys, let me just unmute you here. All right. So, Judy,
Hello.
tell us a little bit about why you selected this film for us to watch.
I just love disturbing you guys at least once a month. Okay. I feel like the movies that I pick are not quite necessarily movies that like I might love and want to like watch over and over again. But well, first of all, yeah, this is not really a family-friendly film. It's definitely not for everybody. It is a beautifully shot film. I saw this movie, I think, near the time that it came out, and that is the first thing I love. It's very artistically shot. It's dark. It's graphic. And the subject matter is disturbing, to put it mildly. And there are moments where you will want to look away. I find that myself when I get too disturbed, I just turn the sound down a little bit. And I've seen this movie before. It's the same thing as my last selection. There's just like a few parts that I'm just like, I saw it once. I got the full experience, the visceral response. I don't need to see it again. But I love that this film takes a disturbing subject matter that is also based in reality, that it's based on the loss of a child, which happens to people, and their response to it. And while the actual, subject line might be a little far-fetched, because it's very metaphorical, I guess you could say. So I don't think that this is something that I would say is common by any chance, but I think that it highlights what could happen with grief and the terrible decision to try to psychoanalyze your partner, and the dreadful results that might come from that.
Yeah. Well
And I can't
said.
wait to hear your thoughts, especially from the newly married man.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Sean.
And the newly uncled man who.
Yes, welcome to the club.
Congratulations.
I have my first nephew and my brother's first child.
Oh God, yeah. So watching this movie, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know where to start.
I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was never big into Lars von Trier. I tried to watch a couple of his films. I did see Dogville, which I really liked. So there's that. He reminded me a lot of David Lynch and Terrence Malick. Now, the one thing I like about David Lynch that I think he has over Lars von Trier is that Lars von Trier, I found, doesn't really he takes himself too seriously. And David Lynch doesn't. Also, Terrence Malick, it's not like I like his movies. It's just not every one of his films works because his filmmaking got into a lot of inner monologue, a lot of narration, which isn't that cool. But in Antichrist, there was okay.
No, I was just not to interrupt, but I felt similarly like that. there were things there's things stylistically that remind me of David Lynch in his filmmaking, and I'm definitely no Lars von Trier connoisseur, but as I was thinking about it just now, it's like every piece of art that somebody makes is going to have some kind of deeply personal thing about it, but there's something that felt almost like over the top personal about this.
Mm-hmm.
Like and especially from what I know about Lars von Trier's personal life, it really, like, the whole movie kind of felt like an overshare to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and we can go into more detail about that later. But I just like that was just a huge, like, I just got that insight now. It's just like that's what was sort of almost the most kind of like chilling to me about this. That was like that this is clearly a movie about really disturbed people, and that it's a reflection of a really disturbed filmmaker. That
Yeah. But the one thing I did like about Antichrist is that there wasn't a lot of narration, and it didn't deal with a lot of narration too. And that's
that's
weird.
interesting.
That's weird because it's a 2-character film.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's
what
a real 2-character film. They don't talk to a friend in the beginning, and then it's 2 people. Also, it's mainly one location. And Judy, I think you like this film because of a lot of the horror elements that it has,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
cabin in the woods,
Mm-hmm.
fog, and unknown.
Yeah.
Also, the investigation
Mm-hmm.
in the whole aspect. Also, the offstage character with their dead kid, which I guess is a third one, but I don't count that. To me, this is like a 2-character film, which if you use well, it is powerful. Terrence Malick doesn't do that sort of stuff, and David Lynch doesn't do that. If they need a character, they'll appear. In this one, it's just these 2 people, and I guess her like descent, because the overall theme here is that women are evil. That's the message I got.
Yeah.
And also there was a fundamental flaw in the morality of it, because she was saying that nature is Satan's church. And I mean, I haven't read my Kierkegaard in a while, but nature is balance and harmony, and you don't blame the tiger for eating the gazelle.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that was just kind of didn't fit. But of course, the movie needed to happen, and I could live with that. It's all right. And when you 2 mentioned about the cinematography, that surprised me, because it was just like inside outside cinematography.
In the classical
Mm-hmm.
sense of cinematography, there's nothing
because they did use the
remarkable.
sun. Yeah, they used the sun a lot, which was cool.
But it's
Okay,
gorgeous.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
yeah, but
just
the sun
it's
is gorgeous.
no, but it's. I mean, listen, just there's stylistically, it's a stunning film. Like I
Yeah.
think anybody can, and it's novel. Like it doesn't look like any other filmmaker. I mean, it's got the Lars von Trier has a very singular style in this film. There's I
This
can't
film.
think what.
All
And
this
again,
film
and that's
are
I'm
shot.
like you. I've actually I can probably confidently say that I would have not finished this film if it wasn't for the podcast. And I'm not saying that as an insult to
Yeah,
Lars von Trier
I
either.
can echo
I
too.
just I mean there's certain kinds of art that I can really admire, but say that
Mhm.
I can't participate in it because it so rattles me, and it's so outside of the Overton window, so to speak, of like acceptable things to show in a piece of art. And this definitely crosses
Mhm.
way over that line for me. It's unacceptably disturbing to me.
Mhm.
And I'm not, and again, like there are other movies that I that are objectively disturbing that other people might feel that way about that I love, but there's just something about his style that rubs me the wrong way. And maybe that was his intention to do that. I mean, I still like, I'm glad I watched it and sat through the whole thing. And I think it's a brilliant movie. I can actually say that I think it is a brilliant movie. And I don't know exactly what it means, but I'm not thinking about the meaning of the film so much when I watch it. This is a movie that just it hits me in such a way, like what I was saying before, is it makes me just really particularly curious about what the hell is going on with the guy who made it.
Mhm.
Like, what would possess him to make it? And just going back to what you were saying about this being a misogynistic film or a film about women being evil, I think that my sense from what I understand about Lars von Trier is the whole id of this film is his rage against his mother. I mean, and I'm not a big Freud fan, to be honest
His
with you,
mother.
but yes, I think because I read about him, and
Oh,
his
okay.
mother pulled some really screwed up stuff. And I think his mother really shattered his entire worldview by what she did. I don't know if you guys know
Mm.
what I'm referring to,
No, please
but maybe
go.
I should. Okay, so
Yes,
I should just say this because like I couldn't.
Lars
It's like
von
one of
Trier,
those
the
things
writer
you
director.
hear. Yes, there's certain things that you hear about a person, like an event that you hear about happening in their lives that you can no longer look at anything they do at all in their life without seeing it through that lens.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this story. So basically, and I might get this a little bit wrong. I'm going to try to be as all right. So from what I remember, I don't know if it was when she was on her deathbed, but it was much later in Lars von Trier's life when he was already a successful filmmaker that his mother revealed to him that the man that she thought was his father, that raised him, that he was close to and was a gentle, sensitive guy, was not actually his father, and that she intentionally had an affair with it was a guy who was like had been an SS officer and was a classical musician and was very powerful, right? And supposedly his father, that the guy that raised him, was like a Jewish guy, very mild mannered, very like kind of sensitive and like a cuckold basically, and that she wanted him to know that the reason that she made sure that she would have a brilliant, strong, powerful man father her child, because she wanted her son to be a brilliant, strong, creative person. And so and then he says, my whole life I thought I was like a Jewish, and then I realized like I'm a Nazi, and that all my talent and all of my gifts and all that stuff, probably a lot of that did come genetically from this other guy who my mother had an affair with. And so I'm saying, like, you can imagine the amount of rage that somebody would have towards their mother, and maybe women in general, or at least an understanding of that the like men and women are equal in the sense that like men and women have equal capacity to do awful things to other human beings. The way that men do all the types of awful things that men do and the types of awful things that women do are different by nature. And one of the most awful things that a woman can do is basically what she did was, it's just like have a kid with somebody else and deceive the father into thinking that, and the son, to deceive both men into thinking that, that they're that that's his son and that's your father, that they're related. That's like the worst thing that a woman can do to a man. I mean, I think probably the worst, not who knows, but so he's depicting like this completely psychotic woman in this movie who's just doing unspeakably deranged things to her husband. And I mean, her husband's not like a completely innocent. I mean, he's an idiot for doing what Judy was saying. But like, I can't divorce what I know about Lars von Trier's personal life with his mother from the way that he's depicting women and what he's trying to say about women in this film. To me, those two things are just fused in my mind after knowing that. But
so his mother got impregnated by an alpha and then got a beta to raise him.
A cuckold beta to raise him, who he was very close to.
Fuck and beta's buck.
Yeah, if alpha fucks, beta bucks.
Lars von Trier had a little speech about how how Hitler wasn't that bad.
Who? Oh, the guy
Lars
whose
von
name you're not
Trier,
supposed to
well,
say?
Lars von Trier, while promoting Melancholia, got stuck in a hister hole when he got asked a question, and he's like, "Well, he's not that bad, but let me explain. But it's
You
not that
can.
bad."
Are you concerned
I,
about
I'm
saying Hitler because
yes,
you don't want to get dinged on the platform?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. I just want to make sure
We can say
I don't want to
Hitler.
get dinged, man.
you can
I've
say
been dinged.
Hitler.
Say Uncle Adolf.
Yeah, Uncle
Uncle
Adolf.
Adolf loves you, but also I'll put that clip in the description so you could see it too, because he's sitting right next to Kirsten Dunst, and she doesn't want to be there, and it's kind of funny. But yeah, I do.
Kristen, she speaks fluent German. Kristen does. Her father is German, so she must have had a really hard time.
That's kind of
He's hard on his actresses. Can I just say that? Like, he's hard on actresses. Like, a lot of them don't want to work with him again.
Well, that was the other thing about this film. I couldn't imagine, like, you know,
Charlotte Gainsbourg has.
She has a lot, yeah.
The whole performance to me borders on abuse. What putting through actors through
Yeah, that's
whatever they had
not. You
to go
don't ask actors to do that stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
it just seemed like exploitative. I mean, obviously they were willing to do it, but it's like it's
because
just
it's a novelty to work with Lars. I think like it's a
and
novelty
also
to work with Cronenberg.
and Charlotte Gainsbourg and Willem Dafoe are kind of like they're the type. Charlotte Gainsbourg's like a very experimental type of person, and Willem Dafoe seems to me to be a very game kind of actor who does all kinds of independent projects, even more obscure stuff than this film.
And
yeah, he likes to work, and like I respect the hell out of him, and he's a fantastic artist, you know.
Yeah.
And you probably couldn't get many guys to do this film, but it doesn't surprise me that they were the actors in this film. But still, like this.
Let me just say, he did have a body double. They both did. So I don't know whose penis was whose, but he did have a body.
I'm sure that was the body double, and the ass double is the within the first minute of it.
There's a lot of his ass. There's a lot of William Dafoe's ass having sex, and I get it. One quick thing I want to note here in the credits: this film would like to thank the Danish Film Institute, the Polish Film Institute, and the Swedish Film Institute. And I looked it up. That's how we got the movie funded.
Yeah,
taxpayer money. Taxpayer money.
Why do you have a problem with that? What do you have a problem?
I have a problem with that because then it's not a good film. It's how good of an essay you write to the film board.
So
if you could write a good enough essay to the film board, they'll give you money.
So basically, you're going to depend on only movies that are made through capitalism. So no movies will be made.
Or the politicians choose it. You can have the politicians choose the movies we make.
I'm the politicians of Hollywood, basically.
I'm philosophically agnostic about that. It's like,
okay,
you know, there's problems with
a lot of names. German money.
The fact that there's a lot of names tells you that it wasn't just one government.
Right, like that's what I'm saying. He's raking in money to make this. All right.
Have you ever left this country and dealt with foreign actors?
What?
Have you ever dealt with foreign filmmakers? Like, talk to them.
I mean,
no. Okay, that's cool.
Not deal.
We're done. We're done. Where's your movie?
I don't understand how you won the argument.
Because I've worked in socialist countries, and it's different.
And to be fair,
Sean, they're on the metric system.
I don't think it's wrong for Sean to bring that up and for that to be part of the conversation. But and it's okay. I think it's perfectly fine for Sean to have the opinion that, like, you know, a capitalist film market is better than a socialist one. But I think you probably have to take it. You have to take it on a case by case basis, and you kind of have to like appreciate that on some level. Like, all filmmaking is sort of a tyrannical. The whole process of making a movie, because there's so many moving parts, is a very corrupt and tyrannical enterprise any way you slice it, whether it's socialist, whether it's capitalist. There's so much grift and so much bullshit going on in order to get a movie. So, like, from the perspective of the filmmaker, my general opinion is like, dude, if you're gonna undertake to make a film and do something really ambitious, fucking by any means necessary, like, I take nothing away from Lars von Trier for going about funding that way.
Make this movie if you depended on a bunch of producers, like, working for even a tax.
You could maybe get some independent.
You might, but
producers to do
really,
it.
Like
but
this movie didn't cost a lot of money.
It cost what?
No,
3.4 million.
Yeah, 3.4 million.
And the box office was 7.4.
But 3.4 is really, and they were wasting money. If they spent 3.4, they were partying it up on. Meaning it was a long shoot.
That man,
you don't know that.
How do you know, Sean? How do you know? You watched the movie. You watched the movie once. You don't understand. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, it's digital, so they could just roll through tape endlessly.
All film is digital now.
Two. There was a lot of jump cuts. So to me, from the European style, that's let the camera run, let the actors find the scene, and then we'll take out the bits that we like and put it together to umph the scene, which is cool. It's like a quick passage of time in the conversation. I dig it, but there's another indicator that they just
Sean,
rolled.
let's
and
back up.
Let's
back up.
No, your point two should make it more expensive.
Let's back up. Let's back up here before you even go into that. Just let's look at think about this logically. How many experts do you need to make a film like this? You need a director.
5.
You need the actors. Professionals, I mean, like people that get paid a salary to do a job.
Mm-hmm.
You need editors. You need sound people. You need, and I'm telling you, this is not an amateur level editing job, not an amateur level sound job, not the composer. I mean, these are people and the animal scenes. Yeah, that even if it's CGI and special effects people. I mean, come on. And how long did it take to do? And how many hours did they have to build? $3.5 million is nothing. It's a drop in the ocean. Now, even if a lot of this stuff, a lot of the money could have been in post-production. I mean, the bulk of it could have been very well.
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't know enough about this, watching. See, the thing that surprises me, Sean, is that I've never seen a film like this before. I've never seen a film like this. So all I'm thinking is $3.5 million to make a film that looks not like any other movie I've ever made. I mean, it must have taken a lot of just energy and time to figure out how to get things to look and sound and do the way they want them to do,
Also, in those systems, they don't back people who come out of nowhere. Like his track record with the Swedish and Danish government, I don't know what his track record with the Polish government is, but they probably wanted to get in behind something he would do, he did this show called The Kingdom with Danish and Swedish actors, which cleaned up. He came out of TV. And Stephen King was like, this is amazing. I want to remake it in America. Then he did Breaking the Wave, which was filmed in Scotland, I think, which I was like, I don't know if I like this movie, but it was pretty well acclaimed. And he's gotten further and further. The movies have always been disturbing, especially on a men-women relationship mode. Like Breaking the Waves is about a guy, he breaks his neck on an oil rig, and then he tells, who is it, Samantha Morton, I think is his girlfriend, he wants to watch her have sex with other men because he can't move from the neck down anymore. So it starts off as this sort of Scottish, Irish, beautiful movie. And suddenly there's this accident, and it becomes, and they're really sexual in it. I think
there's full penetration.
I think Skarsgård and
in which movie are we talking about now?
All of them, all of his
movies are highly sexual and deal with weird dynamics between men and women.
But they've gotten more and more that way, and just like the Canadians with Cronenberg, they're not going to back away from it. But he needs other governments and stars to make his movies now. So the fact that there were only 3 governments involved, and they're not taking that big a risk.
There's more. I just wrote down 3. There was 6. There was 3 other German ones.
But it got 7 years later. It was banned in France after it came out
because they know what a good movie is. It's a
I don't
joke,
think it's that.
guys. It's a joke. It's a joke. Come on.
What's a joke?
I made a joke. I just called Antichrist a bad movie. in a joke form.
Well, it's okay if you think it's a bad movie.
It's okay
All
to
right,
think it's a bad movie, but
I'm not
when you
enraged, but
when you
no,
pull
it's
out
just
stuff like that, why don't you name the cinematographer?
no, it's
why
just
don't
you've
you-
seen one Lars movie, you've seen them all.
Okay,
That's all.
You could say that about anybody.
can say
Once
that
you've
about
seen
me.
one
I
John
do.
Carpenter movie, you've seen them all.
Not Richard Donner.
Once you-
Nope. Not Richard Donner. Or Bob Fosse. Or Stanley
Okay.
Kubrick.
Okay.
It's all right.
I can say that's true of
It
Kubrick.
had chapters.
There's a big overlap in Fosse. I love Fosse, but you can make it.
Okay, but like you know, it's like, man, to blame somebody for having a consistent style, that's like it's like very few artists are brilliant and just constantly reinvent themselves and do
All right,
something
that's
completely
just-
new every time. I mean, it's a
No,
lot.
that's
It's a
cool.
tall order.
And I heard
Yeah.
Melancholia was good. And honestly, I really did like Dogville. I thought Dogville was kind of brilliant.
Dogville is interesting.
I really liked it. How
It's like it's
Also-
a really interesting look at what's
America.
his name? Thornton Wilder
Americana.
style. Americana.
Thornton Wilder.
But
in
then
Americana.
he isolated Nicole Kidman and she didn't do the sequel. So he's always hard on women.
But
his
yeah,
actresses.
back to Antichrist, it was told in chapters, which is a
Mm-hmm.
cool way to structure a film. First, it was the prologue, then it was
Mhm.
grief. After 6
Mhm.
minutes of prologue, it was grief. Then about after a half an hour, there was pain.
Mhm.
Then about 23 minutes of pain. Then
Despair.
comes despair. Then we had about 26 minutes of despair. And then we had chapter 4, the 3 beggars, which
Mhm.
he makes sure you know the signifiers there by having a constellation map over the starry sky. And that lasts for 23 minutes. And then you have the epilogue where Willem Dafoe is in the woods and women come and take him and their faces are blurred out. You're welcome.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what that meant, to be honest.
I
I
don't
kinda
think
got
it
the rest
means
of it, but I was
anything.
like,
I don't think it means anything. Honestly.
Well,
Other
I'm
three
sure he
people-
meant.
well,
I'm
what
sure
does it
he
mean to
meant
him?
something by it.
I think
they're
it means I don't
the
know.
3 fates or the 3 Norns in Scandinavian mythology are these 3 women, or that's the crone, the virgin, and the crone, the virgin, and the harlot, which make up the 3 aspects of women in ancient pagan religion.
Yeah, but this was
And
like
I do
hundreds of
dig
women.
pagan. Yeah, I do dig pagan. But let me just mention when the fox in the middle of the movie
Mhm.
says chaos reigns,
Mhm.
I did giggle a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, there was a cool looking fox. Like that fox was serious. It was like, and chaos reigns, and then it
I
held
think
on
you
the
have
fox.
to have a sense of, a little bit of sense of humor to make a film like this.
It
Otherwise, it's
was
unfair.
like, what is he doing? What does it mean, chaos? But that's not nature. Nature isn't chaos. It's random.
Really?
Yes. It's balance.
Nature's not chaotic.
No.
There's what's that website, Metal Nature? You turn me on to, Abram?
Nature
Metal
is metal.
nature?
No,
Nature is metal.
on Instagram. It just shows like all kinds of brutality taking place in nature.
Right, but
Like-
I mean, there's a balance. Ecosystems, predator prey, pollination. There's always a balance.
There's a
Actually,
balance in chaos, too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Fractals.
actually,
that's
the
opposite of
universe.
chaos.
No, but
No.
Sean, the universe is actually becoming more and more chaotic. There's only certain things. No, literally, it's not.
Okay.
I'm not making
Anarchy and
a
chaos
joke.
are 2
Second
different
law of
things
thermodynamics.
in
I see.
science. You
But-
realize that.
What?
Chaos is beautiful. Like chaos theory, like fractals. It's anarchy.
I read a book on fractals. Yeah.
But there's also order amongst the chaos, and humanity actually brings greater and greater levels of order into the world. I mean, we're more organized. Humanity is more ordered and more organized now than it was thousands of years ago. While nature and the universe is actually continuing to get more chaotic. So, I mean, the thing is, like, I don't know what kind of political or social or historical themes he's really trying to get at, or if he's trying to make any kind of I mean, there's so much going on in this. There's all these religious like imagery and ideas, and she's allegory, exactly, and she's grappling with, like, she thinks that she's Satan. Like, I didn't understand. Like, is she the Antichrist? Like,
no. I could explain. She's like a demon, like the witches she was researching.
Okay, so she's researching those witches, and she's like, so she's like, them.
These witches got persecuted because they're evil. I'm a woman. My body's controlled by nature. Nature's is Church of Satan. Then I must be evil because I let my kid die when he walked out.
Well, that's the thing. It's not revealed until much later in the film that she looks over and sees the baby,
which is cool. That's a good.
I mean, it's a good plot device, yeah. But that begs the question: what? So is her grief over her own, like, is it partly that, like, the grief is so intense because she's responsible for the baby's death? And then we don't realize that until later in the film.
Well,
is that?
I don't know if she's responsible, but she blames herself.
Right. But, exactly.
But isn't it okay? But so how would that scene where you see her looking over at the baby while he's still on the ground before he even crawls up to the windowsill, and she's looking right at him, and she keeps going? How are we to interpret that as anything other than she let it happen?
I think that's a woman with postpartum depression who let it happen because she was paralyzed by postpartum, then giving a reason beyond postpartum to hate herself.
Also,
okay, I have another theory too.
What's your theory?
Wow. So do I.
Okay.
I didn't realize this would be controversial. Okay.
When people grieve and relive a story, they relive the story over and over again, and that story changes over time based on how they think of it. So if she blames herself for the loss of her child, she might have recreated it in her mind that she witnessed it happen.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because it's not, she doesn't have, I'd have to go back and rewatch those two scenes, but it appears a little bit different. So I think in her mind, by the end of the film, she completely blames herself. Like, I could have stopped it. I should have stopped it. I saw it. And if she's thought about that scene, because, if you're in a traumatic event and she's grieving her body, like, because I looked up because I watched the beginning with my husband, and he was like, that doesn't happen when people are grieving. And I was like, I don't know. It didn't. I mean, I've never had that kind of grief, first of all. So I was like, let me look it up. Right. And there is such a thing as becoming, and I can imagine it because I do body work, and the body responds to all different things. Grief is just energy, and that energy has to go somewhere. So for her, it's going to, like, the sex drive, right? And her husband, whatever, he has this whole thing. But I looked at it as she has been so stuck in her head, and her therapist is clearly not helping her. And she, by the end of this movie, is like, I've killed basically she's just spiraling. She's out of control because her emotions have literally overtaken her. So I don't look at it as like she's possessed by a demon. She's possessed by her emotional nature.
And what's interesting to me, because, like, that's a really interesting take. I buy that. I'm really open to any interpretation, because I had trouble following the logic of this movie. I mean, I only watched it once, and this is a kind of movie, if you really want to try to get deep into it, you probably have to watch it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But, like, that. Yeah, I don't know.
I saw.
I could be wrong too.
There was something else that really puzzled me, and I just forgot what it is. Maybe it'll come back.
Let me say, I cheated before watching this. So I watched a video about this movie before watching the movie. Okay. So I knew how it ended and the plot points before I watched it, because I know Lars von Trier, and it's going to be weird. So I knew that the baby, that she saw the baby die. The first thing she says after the baby dies is, I could have stopped it. Mm-hmm. And then the movie happens, because then she feels because I'm thinking, wait, because in the funeral scene, she just drops from grief. And then, but I knew that she winds up letting him die. So where does that go? So to me, it's like, I think she's kind of satanic, because the thing about Satan is that we're no better than animals. That's like the core tenet of Satanism. So when she was having sex while the kid, and she was more interested in getting sex than moving out of that situation to go save the kid, because she's all about herself. That's like what I kind of got, but I thought it was kind of cool where like she's no better than animals, so she wanted sex, so she let her kid die, so now she's in grief and she's just being tumbled in the waves of emotionality.
Well, it's a good argument against. I mean, the film is a good argument against Satanism for sure.
Yeah,
But
that's what I got. And
well,
It
Satanism
reminded me a little bit of the Sam Shepard played Buried Child, which is a similar situation. And also
1980 Pulitzer Prize. Buried
yeah,
Child.
and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf has an imaginary kid that they're grieving. And then Pieces of a Woman is all about the grief over a kid, which is a really incredible.
Who wrote Pieces of a Woman? I forget.
I'll
look it up.
It was really Pieces of a Woman. You're like, how did they shoot this opening scene in like one take? Like you're like, how did they? But it's a great argument for not having a home birth. Let me tell you, when you watch Pieces of a Woman. But then there was another.
I know plenty of people have had home births.
Yeah,
where Lady Macbeth says, "I know how sweet it is to love the child that nurses me, but I would dash its brains in a second, you know, to be queen," or whatever she says. And then we're like, wait. She had a kid before this play with Macbeth or with somebody before Macbeth? Because how does she know that? So there's a special kind of grief when a couple loses a child. And
it usually destroys relationships.
Yeah, it destroys things. I mean, that's what
they say. If you have a child that dies, most likely
it's like Rabbit Hole by David Lindsay Abaire. But also this film, it could have been a play, and with all the sex, it would make a great play. Lars, if you want to make some money, bring this to Broadway. All the tourists from Iowa, Ohio, Nebraska are going to eat this shit up. There's nothing more New York than having sex in the woods, I guess.
And if you want to be a producer and go broke, follow Sean's advice, because there are no.
It has sex.
What play on Broadway?
I'll change that
right now.
There's body horror.
Sean, what play on Broadway has any sex in it right now?
There's a lot of nudity.
There was nudity in that one play with the guy. Oh God, I can't think of his name.
Sarah Kane had a bunch of sex.
Oh, I saw it live where the Harry
That's
Potter.
England,
the Harry Potter play has sex in it?
Wait, no.
Oh,
Equus.
Equus?
Yes, they were naked in it.
But that's a revival. But
I think Seth.
But I'm just saying there was nudity. That was
okay.
There's a lot of nudity. I just saw The Inheritance Part 1. I mean, not just when it was on. There was nudity in that too. There's every show because man, I went to playwriting school. Believe me,
that's a sure way to not know how to not.
Those dudes put in nudity whenever they can because it's the easiest way to show vulnerability. I don't think plays on Broadway make a lot of money, especially straight plays. And I know that if they have they make
sexual content in them, they usually don't do very well. With outsiders, nobody comes into town and says, "I want to pay $300 to see something that I could see for free on YouTube."
You got to meet these tourists, man.
I know these tourists.
Betsy from Lincoln, Nebraska, because she's in New York. She was wanting to go to New York. Let her go to New York and watch some nudity on stage, man. It's
she's gonna go to Book of Mormon. She's gonna go see. What is it? Lion King. That's
Book of Mormon
is popular.
Well, the second I saw that, like really, like bright sort of stylized phallus going in and out of.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew I was in for a
third
long
shot.
No, but that's
be a very long movie
because you can ask for your money back.
Yeah.
Within 15 minutes of seeing
it. Less than 15. That's the opening credits. I mean, the opening scene in that movie was unbelievably powerful. I mean, it's just like the baby falling out of the window, and it looks so beautiful the way he's falling. Like, I mean, that's what really grabbed me is just like, you know, that's one thing I wanted to bring up to you guys. Did you find her like abandonment syndrome later in the film to be kind of like jarring? Like all of a sudden she's
Kinda, yeah.
freaking out about him
Yes.
leaving her. It seemed
Yeah.
like
Everything
that's
was
very
done.
hard. That's very
I-
horror in the abruptness of it. It's like totally unexpected that she's going to flip out in quite that fashion, and then drilling the fucking weight into his leg. I mean, it's just like so. It just gets more and more bizarre.
Yeah, it's at the moment where he changes the top of the pyramid to me, where he discovers
Wait.
she's most scared of herself.
Wait, but
Oh.
before that, it was
That's when she hits him.
But before,
and
right
then the
before
blood,
that.
the blood ejaculation. That was a little bit. I mean, that was
Yeah.
very.
So
Does that even happen? Like,
yeah,
if you
I don't
You
know.
guys
But-
tell me. I don't know.
But
It can
before,
happen.
no, like if he had blunt force trauma to his genitals, and then he's passed out, and then she's jerking him off,
Would there be
and
blood
he
in
had-
his? In
but
his,
it looked like it was just straight blood that he was ejaculating.
I know some guy.
Yeah,
I
maybe
won't-
so.
I'm not
That's
friends
what I'm
with
saying.
him
Like a
anymore.
lot of the things that happen in this movie, you're scratching your head like this doesn't happen
So,
in real life.
no,
But then
let me
like you
tell you
think
something.
about it and you're like,
No.
actually maybe some people do go crazy in this way.
Maybe people
Yeah.
will tune in because I tell this story on the theory that sex sells. I had a friend, and he decided he didn't want to ejaculate, so he was going to hold his penis hole closed, and it has to go somewhere. And the next thing he knew, he was ejaculating blood after that. So he had to go to a doctor, and the doctor's like, "How did this happen?" And he told me, he's like, "Well, why would you do that?" He's like, "Well, I didn't want to ejaculate." And he's like, "Yeah, you'll be fine. Just don't do that anymore." So yeah, like if you cause some kind
There's
of
a lot of ways that you can traumatize your genitals so the blood would come out of it. Okay, I got it.
It's a lot of blood
Wait,
that goes to
okay.
that area.
Yeah.
But before
Wow.
she flips out, Willem Dafoe discovers that she was putting the wrong shoes on the wrong
Yes.
feet
Oh
for her
God,
son.
I
that
wanted to
part-
bring that up.
Giving them-
so much in this movie. Oh my
giving
God.
them
Yeah.
giving them like the malformation, and then he looks at the picture because he says, "What about this picture? Wrong feet." She's like, "Oh, it slipped my mind that day." Then he saw the other pictures, the feet are
And
on the
so
wrong
what's
feet.
the-
Then
what
you get a
is the-
flashback. But you
Okay,
get a
so-
flashback. She's putting the boots on. He's crying. She doesn't care
So why
Then
was she
she gets
doing
at
that then? Because she wanted
because she's
to,
evil. Because she's evil.
She's evil. Okay.
Or
Got it.
something.
All right.
She's the Antichrist. That's what it is. So they alluded that she always had this little "fuck you, you little kid" in her heart. And when he discovers that, he writes "me" or something on the top of her. When he wrote that, I thought Willem Dafoe meant himself, but I guess Willem Dafoe
Well, I think
meant
because it was in quotes.
right. Okay, so me as in her, and then I
That's
guess she's
how I saw
afraid of
it.
herself. She's afraid of herself because she does evil. That's why she cuts her clitoris in the end, as in the force that was driving her to let her son die was my clit. So let's get
all
rid
these
of that.
things I like
Smash
blocked
the
them out.
penis.
Like this is like the gift that keeps on giving, gifts that
Yeah.
you don't want to remember. Like I didn't remember the clit thing until you mentioned. I forgot about the shoes. That was so disturbing.
Because it's traumatizing. Your mind is trained.
Yeah.
The human mind is trained to ignore that stuff.
And mine in particular, because I've had
Yeah, 'cause
I had enough. I had enough in the first half of my life to last for 1,000 lifetimes. So I forget a lot of stuff. You know.
And how they did that clitoris being cut was practical effects. It looked really good. Some silicone, some silicone.
Yeah.
You put a little blood pump in behind it. You put it in front of real legs. That was really her clitoris and really scissors on it. But when they cut to the close up, I think that was somebody's legs.
I think
And
maybe
then they
this. I think this movie
looked
kind of
good.
reminds me of Jackass. Like if you think
yeah,
about
that's
it.
what it's still.
It's just like one stupid thing to do. Like one bad, like what would happen if we put the shoes, like a sick, twisted form of Jackass where you impose these things on other people? Like, hey, let's put the shoes on backwards for the baby and see what happens.
That's
Well,
not.
what happens if I
genre
cut
theory
my
of
clitoris
filmmaking
off?
where
Who
it's like-
knows? Like, what?
That's like the genre filmmaking theory where it's like, well, I talked about this a couple weeks ago, where like they're like, well, they're all the same movie. Like Wizard of Oz and Planet of the Apes are the same movie. This one, so it's like, yeah, Jackass is the reality comedy version
Of this
of
movie.
this, which is the horrible. Oh, you know what other film it reminded me of, which I don't like, and I always feel bad that I don't like it, because I feel that it makes me like lowbrow or something, even though I love all those other films. Ingmar Bergman's Persona. This reminded me a lot of Ingmar Bergman's persona.
Oh man, I'm glad you brought up
Another two-character film.
Yeah.
It's see
in a remote location.
Ingmar Bergman and Woody Allen and a lot of filmmakers that I love suffer from that phenomenon that I brought up in the beginning, which is like art as an overshare. Like,
Yeah,
Ingmar Bergman is like every movie is an overshare of like personal neurosis, and there's like, it's not surprising why a guy like Woody Allen was obsessed with Ingmar Bergman, because he was doing what, like, you know, that for a lot of people, especially atheistic type
like
of
the comedy version,
like an atheistic type of artist, an artist that doesn't really like have a conception of like normative ideas of good and evil and right and wrong, and they explore like their art ends up becoming kind of like a Freudian nightmare, because
Freud said, and I was going to say this earlier, Freud said the difference between a neurotic and an artist is an artist has an editor. That was that's a Freud
artist
quote.
has a what?
Meisner
Artist
says
and neurotic.
Yeah, the difference
like
between an artist
go to a party and continue to tell the story that you don't want to hear. The editor in the artist goes, they don't need to hear that. They don't need to know that happened. They don't need to know that. And he says that's the difference. And I think that Ingmar Bergman really starts the tradition, I think, of being like, fuck that quote. Fuck that quote. I don't care.
Well, he was Swedish too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's interesting, like that it's coming from a similar part of the world.
Scandinavians are very interesting people because they're not really
they're artists. Henrik Ibsen was on Norwegian taxpayer money basically his whole life. He was traveling Italy writing all those plays about the fjords on Norwegian taxpayer money. I just think that's interesting.
Well, Ingmar Bergman didn't want to pay his taxes.
Because he was such a brilliant player. He only wrote 4 good ones, by the way.
Who?
Henrik Ibsen. No, I'm kidding. But back to Lars von Trier.
Well, can I finish my statement on Ingmar Bergman?
Of course.
So Bergman was told you got to pay your taxes. And he's like, then I'll move to Germany and I won't pay my taxes. So he moved to Germany and he started making movies there. And then Sweden was like begged him to come back and make movies. So that was his way of.
I'm glad you finished the story. No, I'm not being a jerk. No, that was hot.
That's good.
That's hot.
That's good.
It's like Clint Eastwood saying. That's like Clint Eastwood saying, "All right, Warner, I'm going to go to Colombia. Bye." Anyway, but what I do like about Lars von Trier is that I mean, to me, it just seemed like this movie was 3.4 because it took a long time to shoot, because they were just in the woods having fun doing different setups. I'm sure there was a lot of other stuff that didn't
I don't think
wind
they were
up being
having
in
any
the film.
fun.
I thought no, because like Willem, do this, Charlie, try it like this, do it like this, try it like
Trust
this.
me,
No, I thought there was a lot of that.
If they were having fun, then they're shitty actors.
If they weren't having any fun in Blair Witch Project, which is documented, that they didn't have any fun.
I'm just saying, if you're in the woods, you're gonna get a campfire going, throw a couple beers at night, or when you're off, and hang out. You're in the woods. It's not like you're in a city.
Yeah, sure, Sean.
Sure.
I'd love
That's
to
what I'm
see.
saying.
I want to see you redo. You should redo this film, Sean.
Can we see? Yeah,
It'll be
Can
called
you do
Jesus
a remake
Christ.
of this?
as an acting teacher, can I?
Antichrist Superstar.
Antichrist
Sean's
Superstar.
version.
I think they already did that when I.
Marilyn Manson's album is called Antichrist.
Oh wait.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Just to our time
about
here,
that.
we did have a commenter, and he did suggest a movie.
Okay.
So I didn't know if I should bring that up now or
Bring it up.
we should. Okay, so there was a guy.
That was during this stream.
No, it was. He messaged me before. His name is Cod Patrol Les Grossman. Cod Patrol Les Grossman. Cod as in the fish. Les Grossman as in Tropic Thunder. He recommends 1990s To Sleep with Anger, starring Danny Glover and written and directed by Charles Burnett. The blurb is: a characteristic old acquaintance drifts into town, stirring up trouble for a mild-mannered family. So that's Mr. Grossman's suggestion.
I think that's a good. I've never seen that. Sounds obscure.
I'll have to take a look at it.
Yeah.
All right. other than that, does anybody have any final thoughts on
I would love
my
to see
beautiful
actors
film.
work on this in an acting class.
Wait,
I would
I was
love
going to.
to.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's like the actors are just let's play around. Let's get there.
No, not if you're doing it right. They're not.
No. Okay.
How did you go to the actor studio grad school?
I'll tell you this. I was there. I paid attention, and
you paid something else, and they let you in.
And yeah, it was a good point. No, I was talented, but no, I paid attention to the whole thing, and that's what it is. They got to find it, because when you perform at the actor's studio, that's never a final performance. They really emphasize that. It's just where you are in the process, because each performance is just rehearsal for the next performance, which will be rehearsal for the next one. That's their whole thing. So that's what, and they only like realism, no absurdity. They hate it. Okay. Realism, naturalism, strictly. That's it. Don't walk in there with Sarah Kane or whatever else. You better have Odets in your back pocket. And but that's what I meant. That's a very actory type story. That's what I meant.
Okay. My final thought is that taking what Abram was saying about his story, I can absolutely see how his own personal experience, and knowing that I think he suffered like a major depression, because this is part of his depression series. It was the first one out of the 3 or 4. And so knowing what you say now, if he perceived his mother to be evil, that was there. And if he perceived his father to be sort of like not a great dude, that was also there.
Like
so knowing that, and just the choices he made as like a terrible therapist, I could see how that influenced the film. I'll just say.
Right.
So it puts a new spin on it, on like my theory of it. I could see the beginning and the ending either way. She did either let him die, or she reinterpreted it as, well, maybe I let him die. I don't know. It could go either way.
Right.
But knowing the whole shoe thing too really is good. Makes you go.
If I remember correctly, he has a thing, Lars von Trier, about shoes. And he made a short film with the Swedish actor who was one of the doctors in the Kingdom, where they were train conductors, and they're talking about neurosis having to do with shoes and shoelaces. And when the guy tried to talk to Lars von Trier about, I don't understand this, no one would do this, Lars von Trier was like, no, this is me. I have this thing about shoes. Like, he has a weird fear of shoes or something. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
This was years ago. But he has a shoe thing.
Okay.
Interesting. Cool. All right. I guess, I mean, I don't really have much to say that I didn't say before, but in terms of a closing statement, I would say, it was a very appropriate film to select for this podcast. It is probably one of the most disturbing films I've ever seen. It's fascinating. It's, not everybody will be able to handle it, but if you like really fucked up horror movies, thrillers, then you have to see this if you haven't already seen it. Yeah. Good date movie.
Really quick.
If you like it, it's a great date movie.
This is a film student style.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's all I got.
Judy,
this was an excellent choice. Judy, this was an excellent choice. Thank you.
If you like being disturbed more than being afraid, this is a great film.
Yeah.
And,
it's not it's not terribly scary.
I like being afraid more. So maybe I
was telling Abram, I was like, I think this was the hardest movie to like watch of anything so far that we've done. But what was the one before it that was hard to watch before this? Like, I guess Kids, right? Kids. Or Kids was hard. I guess
wait,
the last one
like hard by being disturbing.
Yeah, I mean the cannibalism film that Judy selected.
That
wasn't hard to watch.
I have a theme in my selections.
Yeah, Judy's.
I still remember that sex scene in that movie. It's just like, wait, they just start fucking right here? Weird. Anyway, Who's next? Who's chooses next?
I'm next. I'll go ahead.
Okay.
I was inspired basically because I just saw Licorice Pizza, which was Paul Thomas Anderson's most recent film, and it gave me renewed enthusiasm for the director. I've always liked Paul Thomas Anderson, but I've also always felt that he's really inconsistent. And he'll make a movie that I absolutely love, and then he'll make something that like I just like, what the hell was that? And the last film that he did with Daniel Day-Lewis, the Phantom Thread, I thought was I enjoyed it. I enjoy all of his movies, but I thought it was very strange, and I didn't really understand what it was all about, what it was trying to say. And I thought it'd be kind of interesting to go back and do his first film, which most people I know haven't seen. It's a pretty obscure film. It was kind of a flop. It was critically acclaimed. A lot of the critics thought very highly of it, and I think everybody in the film world who saw were thinking that this is a promising new director. But it was a film that I saw relatively soon after. I saw it a long time ago, and it's a movie I've always gone back to study in terms of like what can you accomplish, with a relatively small budget, and being just a good storyteller. He's a good storyteller when he wants to be. And so I picked Hard 8, which was 1996. That was his debut film. It's got a great cast of people who would go on to be like an ensemble for, future films. It stars Philip Baker Hall.
Who's amazing.
He's amazing. Yeah. John C. Reilly is in it. Gwyneth Paltrow, Samuel L. Jackson, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. And I'd say Philip Seymour Hoffman, John C. Reilly, and Philip Baker Hall are all ensemble actors in multiple films of Paul Thomas Anderson. Yeah. A lot of those guys would go on to be in many of his other films, including Boogie Nights and Magnolia and whatnot. So I figured I can. How many of you guys have seen this movie before?
I saw it with you.
Oh, you saw it with me?
I might have seen it, but not in a while.
I've never seen it.
Okay, and Sean's a Paul Thomas Anderson detractor, so it'll be interesting if we can win him over with this film.
Yes, it's a Sundance, which I always respect. And Philip Baker Hall was Mr. Bookman in Seinfeld.
All right, should we roll let's roll the trailer. Let me see here.
Roll it.
It's like the story but it's like The Color of Money, like the story.
No, it's different.
It's cards.
It's got gambling in it, but
it's cards instead of pool.
It's a different. It's not like any. That's the reason it's good. Right. It's not like any other.
It's different, yeah. Movie. All right.
Let's see what happens if I try to share this now. I'm never sure if this is going to.
John C. Reilly's a brilliant singer. He's a brilliant singer.
Hang on. Let me reboot these.
$50.
What am I doing? Hang on.
I would bet not very long.
Can you guys hear it okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's always good to meet a new friend.
Let me roll this again from the beginning. And turn the volume up.
Not very long.
What?
He's talking about money?
I would bet
Wait, hang on.
not very long.
I'm really bungling this one.
You're at 7 seconds.
Go on. Go.
How long can you eat? How long can you live on $50?
I don't know.
I would bet not very long.
Oh, the music's cool. Like he has always had good camera work, though. I got it.
Oh yeah. Clearly, he's influenced by Scorsese.
It's always good to meet a new friend.
Oh, you took care of him?
John is a very old friend.
I think it's pretty adorable the way he follows you around and looks up to you.
Hello.
Hi. I don't do anything that I don't want to do. You understand?
Says you remember, Jimmy. Friend, Lucifer.
I saw you playing crap over the original Doom. Bet the hard 8 for 1,000 and he pressed it for 2. Stupid man.
He thinks you don't like him.
I don't. I don't think about Atlantic City. You walk around like you're Mr. Cool, Mr. Wisdom, but you're not. You're just some old hood.
Please do not probe over than me.
I love you, Sid.
And please don't tell John what I've done.
So you think what? That you can just walk through this life without being punished for it?
Yeah, I'm kind of excited. I'm excited about. Wait.
That is my hope.
This preview kind of gives away,
Philip
Gives
Baker,
away a lot.
Stop it then. Stop it
Yeah.
then.
John C. Riley,
but it's okay.
Gwyneth Paltrow,
It's still like,
and Samuel L. Jackson. Hard 8.
yeah,
That-
it's
that's
kind
a-
of, it's
like a
cool
trailer
looking,
in the
right?
end.
I mean,
Yeah,
even
well, the
just
tra-
if you're
even
not
the
paying attention,
trailer is like a 70s style.
yeah. So
I
I'm
kind
excited
of like
to do
any
that.
movie where an old white man wins in the end. So
What?
that's my. You don't see that anymore. So, but you know, they're smarter. They got connections. That's cool.
Yeah, that's one of those uncalibrated things to say right at the very end of a
Yeah.
stream. But
Yeah.
well, we'll just pretend we didn't hear that.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No one cares, Sean, that you're kidding. Like, everyone's kidding who gets canceled. It's,
Okay, I'll stop.
Yeah.
please.
If we didn't make fun of you for that, then that would probably be a problem too.
I understand.
Anyway, until next time, that's our show, and we'll see you next week for Hard 8. Peace.